Ligon. Ben, I know what you said about Ligon.
That's right. And Sally, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the January 11, 2021 Legislative Committee meeting that I'm going to call to order. And for as the ethics statement, it is the duty of the committee members to avoid conflicts of interest and appearance of conflicts of interest in performing the duties as a member of the Legislative Committee and the North Carolina State Bar. Any members of the committee who was aware of any personal conflicts of appearance with respect to the matters before this committee should disclose those at the meeting. If anybody has any conflicts based upon what our agenda is right now, if you'll please let us know, I certainly would appreciate it. Seeing none, we will go to our first item of business is we are as soon as Representative Moore comes on, we will certainly introduce him. We do have the July 2020 minutes. Has anybody not had the opportunity to review these minutes? Seeing none, what happened earlier is that Peter is going to launch a poll question for a motion that will read approve the motion. And if you will vote yes or no after the poll, then he can tabulate the votes and let us know.
Jay, I think we need a motion to approve in a second.
I was going to get there. Hearing no one have any objections, I will accept a motion to approve the July 2020 minutes as presented.
So moved.
We have Bert approving. We have a Bert making the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second is Anna. If you will now, motion is approved. If you will vote yes to approve the motion or no. Okay, it looks like it is.
We have it as unanimous.
Okay. Now we have new members. The new members that we have that I want to introduce is an advisory member is the esteemed John Silverstein, who is in his turtleneck. Thank you for coming in, John. We also have Michelle Frazier. Michelle, thank you for being here. Michelle works for the North Carolina Bar as a lobbyist. And then we have a new counselor that is on is Bert Kemp. Thank you, Bert. And talking about the committee history, the next on our agenda, it's important for everybody to know sort of where we are, is that the North Carolina State Bar has this legislative committee and has had it for much of the history of the bar. It was reestablished in its current form around 2010. The committee is officially an ad hoc committee and is not a standing committee. Its role is to advise the council on important legislative matters, engage with the legislature, and recommend action on legislative matters that affect the regulation of the legal profession. For many years, the late John McMillan provided pro bono legislative work for the State Bar and reported to the legislative committee anytime there were legislative matters important to the State Bar. During the LegalZoom litigation and legislation, the State Bar heard comments from various legislators that we only go over there when we want something. And in light of those comments, in 2016, the Legislative Committee and State Bar of Officers determined that a more official legislative presence was necessary and designated Peter as a legislative liaison. The State Bar focuses its legislative efforts on matters pertaining to the regulation of the legal profession. This mostly entails working on bills affecting Chapter 84 of the General Statutes, which is attached to our documents that we have right now. As it stands right now, we have identified 3 areas that we really want to focus in on as priorities. And one is the regular communication with our legislators. It's important that we stay in touch with them. Peter has done yeoman's task in regards to creating some language that we'll have on some pre-printed cards that we're going to send out or talk to all the state bar counselors. And Peter's putting it up right now. This is one of the notes that we will have that we would ask that each one of the counselors fill in and sign in as it relates to the notice and communication with the legislators in your district. I do think it's important that even if they're not in your district, if we could contact those that we know, because we may know people outside of our district that we have a very good relationship with that we need to develop and enhance, because the better we have in communication, the better it is for the state bar as a whole, because the other two legislative priorities that we have are very important in regards to the districts that I'm going to ask Peter to talk about more detail, as well as the third in regards to making progress on the state bar dues bill. So Peter, with that, I would ask you to, if you'll talk a little bit more about the communications and the importance of that, as well as the districts and also the state bar due bill.
Sure. So what we're hoping to do is help the legislative committee members and all of the counselors, if we can stay engaged with their legislators. Last year, or I believe it was the beginning of the last session, Marcy Armstrong had the great idea to send note cards to the legislators after the election, congratulating them on their reelection, but also making sure that they were, had the counselors' contact information, knew we wanted to be there as a resource. And we want to redo that this year, make it a little. When I was closing up the note cards and bringing them to the legislators last year, I noticed that some of us have almost illegible handwriting. And so maybe having some pre-printed language with some room at the bottom to let you write some personal notes will make it easier for everybody, so you don't have to write full notes to everyone if you don't want. If you want to write a full one yourself, we can certainly provide you with blank cards to do it. Jay, I see that the speaker is in the waiting room. Do you want to jump to that?
Yeah, let's jump to that, please.
Okay. Hello, is this Speaker Moore? I think you're muted on the phone. Joseph, is this you? We got you in the room now. I think your phone is muted. That's all. I can try to get you to unmute. There we go.
Sure. So
Hey,
I've
guys,
pressed
can you hear me?
*6. Speaker may need to as well.
We got you.
I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome
Great.
to the Legislative Committee at the State Bar, Speaker Moore. My name is Jay White, and I want to introduce you to our committee. Ladies and gentlemen, Representative Moore is beginning his fourth term as the presiding officer of the North Carolina House of Representatives. He was first elected to the General Assembly in 2002, representing Cleveland County. He's a lifelong resident of Kings Mountain, North Carolina. Graduated from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill in 1982 with a BA degree in political science. Attended the Oklahoma City University School of Law, receiving his JD in 1995. After passing the bar, he returned to Cleveland County and began working and practicing in Shelby. He became a partner in the firm of Flowers, Martin, Moore, and Ditz, PA, and practiced there until 2009 when he opened his own firm, Tim Moore, Attorney at Law, PA, in Kings Mountain, where he currently practices. As part of his legal practice, Speaker Moore serves as the county attorney for Cleveland County, as well as the general counsel for the Cleveland County Water Board of Commissioners. Mr. Speaker Moore lives in Kings Mountain with his two sons, McCray and Wilson. Speaker Moore, we certainly appreciate you coming. And at the appropriate time, we'd like to introduce ourselves and let you know a little bit about our committee.
Thank you for having me. And if you would, go ahead. If you find, let everybody introduce themselves too, if that's okay.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask each one of the committee members to identify yourself by name, what county you represent, and what area of practice that you practice. For instance, my name is Jay White. I'm from Cabarrus County. I do civil and criminal litigation and all of the DSS work for Cabarrus County. If we could go to David, how about going?
Yes, sir, Speaker Moore. This is David Allen. I'm across the big water in Mecklenburg County, as my friend Grady Stott used to say. I do litigation of all kinds. On the civil side, I do not do criminal work. And I've been on the State Bar Council for 7 years, I believe, chair of the Ethics Committee.
Nick?
Speaker Moore, I'm Nick Fountain. I'm with Young Moore and Henderson in Raleigh, and I'm an advisory member of this committee and have been on the committee for a number of years now, and was previously a bar counselor. I do license board work and practice administrative law generally.
Darren?
Yes, sir. I'm Darren Jordan. I'm president-elect of the State Bar. I live in Salisbury, practice with Whitley, Jordan, and Inge. I do criminal, both state and federal work, and I'm specializing in arson cases as of Thursday.
Robert?
Hi, Mr. Speaker. This is Bobby Bowers. I live in Mecklenburg County in the 98th House District. I practice at Moore and Van Allen, and I do commercial litigation work. It's nice to talk with you today.
Thank you.
Judge Cobb?
I'm Alan Cobb. I'm from New Hanover County. I'm a senior resident Superior Court judge, retired.
Let's see, Anna?
Hey, Speaker Moore, my name's Anna Hamrick. I'm from Asheville, so Buncombe County, and I practice workers' comp and Social Security disability with Grimes Tisch Anderson. Nice to meet you.
Madam
Thank you.
President?
Same to you.
Yes, it's Barbara Christie. I'm president of the State Bar, and I practice in Greensboro, and I do commercial transactions, primarily real estate.
Mr. Rader?
I'm Robert Rader from Wake County, and I just retired as Chief District Court Judge in Wake after 26 years on the bench.
Michelle?
Hey, Speaker Moore, it's Michelle Frazier. Practice with Nexon Pruitt and walk the halls, as you know. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
John? Let's see. Madam Vice President?
Sorry, had to find the unmute button. Speaker Moore, this is Marcy Armstrong. Thank you so much for being with us today. I'm from Johnston County. I am practice family law, and I am the current Vice President of the State Bar.
Ligon?
There we are. Speaker Moore, my name is Ligon Bundy. I practiced law in Monroe, Union County for about 43 years in general practice, civil practice, until my retirement a couple of years ago. My practice towards the end was devoted primarily to local government law. I represented Union County and had represented a couple of other municipalities.
Colin?
Yes. This is Colin Willoughby. I practice at McGuire Woods in Raleigh, and I work in a group that does consulting and government investigations.
And Mark Enriquez?
Good morning, Speaker.
Speaker Moore, it's Mark Enriquez. I'm in the Charlotte office of Womble Bond Dickinson, and I do complex litigation there. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Josh?
Joshua Malcolm, Robeson County. I'm in-house counsel for a defense contractor that's owned by the Lumbee Tribe of North Carolina, and also represent a local community college.
Matt?
Mr. Speaker, Matt Smith from fabulous Rockingham County. I practice with Madry, Edinger, Smith, Hollowell, and Tony, concentrating in the areas of real estate, estates, and guardianships.
Mac?
Mr. Speaker, this is Mac McCarley. I practice with Parker Poe in Mecklenburg County, and my practice is local government and sports.
Let's see. Rebecca?
I'm Rebecca Pomeroy. As you know, I'm from your county. I represent District 39, working in Lincolnton, over Lincoln and Cleveland County for the State Bar. I practice residential real estate, estate planning, and probate.
Bert?
Mr. Speaker, I'm Bert Kemp. I am the Pitt County Public Defender, and I practice in criminal law and the bar counselor for Pitt County. It's good to have you on, sir.
And Bert and I go way back to Carolina days, as a matter of fact, but I won't talk about him if he won't talk about me.
Alice?
Hi, Speaker Moore. Thank you for joining us. I used to be a lawyer, but now I am executive director of the State Bar and basically a pettifogging bureaucrat.
Now, in our Hollywood Squares of 2021, I think I've got everybody. Did I miss somebody, Peter? Oh, Tom, I'm sorry. Tom.
Hello, Speaker Moore. I'm Tom Anderson. I'm from Surrey County, District 23, and this is up where Sarah Stevens lives in Mount Airy.
Yeah.
I do primarily consumer bankruptcy law, though I represent parents in DSS court and delinquents in juvenile court. Thank you.
And Russ Neighbors?
Had to find the unmute button. I'm Russ Neighbors from Marion, North Carolina, just up the road from Shelby. And I retired as of January 1.
Ah.
Right.
And
is it McDowell? Is it McDowell or MacDowell?
MacDowell.
That's what I thought.
Skip?
Yes. Skip Stam, advisory member from Apex, property rights and state constitutional litigation. Hey.
And co-author of the Magna Carta, right?
Reviser.
Jerry Collins.
Speaker, my name is Jerry Collins, and I live in Murphy, North Carolina, and practice there in a small town, small time, practice the law.
And
with the prettiest courthouse in the whole state.
It is a beautiful courthouse, absolutely.
John Silverstein. There you go, John.
Speaker Moore, I'm John Silverstein in Raleigh. I'm also recently retired. I formerly served on the council with our mutual friend, Ralph Meekins.
All right.
And I believe that is all, Speaker Moore. Thank you for your patience. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to take a few minutes to speak to us.
No, glad to do it. Sorry I can't see. I'm still in the car headed in, although I'm getting close to the legislative building. So before this call's over, I may be able to actually pop on that one and see you. But thanks for having me. I appreciate what you guys do there at the State Bar. And I still practice law. I joke, this isn't the group to joke. I tell some people I don't practice law anymore. I malpractice law. But again, that probably won't get any laughs with this joke saying that. But anyway, it's still got an active law practice there in Kings Mountain. And so just balance the two masters between the serving in the General Assembly and trying to take care of clients.
Well, we certainly appreciate you again taking the time to to take your time out, and we just want to do everything we can to provide services to the legislature on any legal matters that we can possibly do. We do have some important things that are coming up that we certainly would ask the legislature to put in perspective, but also help us with.
Speaker Moore, yeah, I was wondering if you had any thoughts on the upcoming session. This is Peter Bolak, the legislative liaison. I was wondering if you had any thoughts on the upcoming session or any goals or plans for what you foresee the focus for the House in the next few months.
Well, I do, and I think where we are, we're going to convene Wednesday of this week. The first items that we will be dealing with when we come into session will be the COVID relief and really appropriating those additional funds that have come down from the federal government. We will then move into the budget process later on, and then at the end of the year, redistricting. In between and along the way, we will also be dealing with a number of other issues, such as what we're going to do with our folks in education. In terms of getting them caught up from where they're missing time in school. We're going to have to deal with just all sorts of COVID issues. Some things beyond that I'm going to be personally working on will be another bond initiative to get some capital projects built that have been needed for quite some time from our universities, community colleges, our K-12, and then also as part of our funding package, we're going to look at some additional grants and funding to help with our courthouses. We've done some of that in the past, and we had some in the budget last year that ultimately was not adopted because of just our impasse we had with our executive branch. But we're hopeful that we're going to be able to move from those and see those things get done. But they're really a whole myriad of projects and issues that we're going to be working on. But right now, what we are seeing is the thing that is going to clearly dominate our legislative session is going to be everything COVID. Just as it's turned our lives and everything else upside down, it has definitely done the same in state government. So we're going to be working to do all we can to find out where the needs are, where the state can put resources in to help, and really from there to just try to get North Carolina going back again here and kind of get on the other side of this thing.
Thank you for that. I have a couple of questions to ask. If there's anybody in the committee that has a question, if you want to send me a chat, I'm happy to get you acknowledged or read it for you. My question, since we are a state bar committee here, we do keep our eye on the number of lawyers in the legislature, the number of legislators. And it's certainly, while it's not as many lawyers as it has been in decades past, we certainly see our fair share of lawyers in leadership positions in the legislature, including you as the Speaker, the Senate Leader, and the House Rules Committee Chairman. Is there any thoughts on lawyers serving the legislature, the difficulty of serving in the legislature, and the value that lawyers bring? Oh, no, we might have lost him. Mr. Speaker, are you there? Mr. Speaker, are you there with us?
Sorry, this is Joseph, his staff member. I'm on the line with him. We're still here. I'm not sure why he dropped off. He should be back with us momentarily.
Okay. Here he comes. think he's coming in on video, maybe. Let's see. There we go. Mr. Speaker, thank you for joining us. You're muted, just as an FYI, coming in muted. I don't know if you got my question or not, since I think we might have been right when you were dropping off about lawyers serving in the legislature and service they can provide.
There we go. Thanks. Hey, so yeah, I don't know what happened. It just totally dropped off there as I was talking. Well, we do have a number of attorneys who are in the legislature. Historically, there have been more, but it is the two things do go hand in hand: the knowledge and the understanding of law. With being a lawmaker is generally a good thing. So it's something that I think lawyers should aspire to do and should try to do as a means of public service. But it does pose some challenges, because if you handle court cases like I try to do, or it's a little hard to do that when your practice is in Cleveland County and you're 3 hours away in Wake County. But I will say that it's been the judges have generally been very accommodating. Clients understand going into it, and you just have to manage the caseload. There's a lot of work that I could do that I simply turn away because I know there's no way to do it really professionally and competently. So it's just a sacrifice that folks make, but it definitely, I think it's worth the reward for the public service.
And then the other specific question as it relates to legislation that I had is, as you know, that the state bars, judicial district bars, are aligned with the prosecutorial districts. And so then with the changes to the prosecutorial districts, we now are mismatched with the Superior Court and District Court districts. And it is causing confusion for lawyers and judges. And we're committed to finding a solution this session. And I'm hopeful and wondering if you see a solution this session and what we can do to help.
Yeah, I think we passed last year legislation to realign put the judicial districts with the prosecutorial districts, and the Senate pushed back, wanting to go back to the old method. I'll tell you the reason that we went with the new district numbers as opposed to the way they were. Like in my area, for example, we're 27A and we're 27B, and those are two separate judicial districts. But Colin, you're on there in Wake County. You're what are you guys? District what? What's the judicial district for Wake?
10. Yeah.
10th district.
So it's District 10, but then within District 10, you have seats that you run for office. And so you run for 10A, B, C, D, et cetera. So our urban counties have that. So the thought was, instead of having districts that are numbered like that if you see like a number and a letter, that denotes that it is within a judicial district, a sub-district in which an election is to be held. And so that was the whole notion of getting rid of all the A's, the B's, and the C's and all that, which really were just kind of legacy things that had been left over where larger districts were split up into smaller districts. So that was the rationale between going ahead and then just having the numbers where it was just district numbers for everything. And I don't know what got crossways, but someone in the Senate decided they wanted to go back to the old way, and I just said no. And so you kind of have where we are right now, where you have one set of numbers for the prosecutorial districts and another for the judicial, but it does need to be fixed. But that's the reason that it was changed, and we ran into that when we were doing the judicial redistricting, because people were asking questions like, for example, why is there what district's 11A? And they would say, well, that's Wake County. They said, well, what district's 11B? Or 10B, or rather, and that's Wake County. And people were asking what. It caused a lot of confusion. So that's the whole reason behind where it is right now. But yeah, it needs to be fixed.
Yeah, and I think we were initially drafting legislation with AOC, and so we'll need to all work together to find something that works, but hopefully doesn't continue to cause this confusion in the judicial areas. I did have a question, just as your thoughts on the budget. I imagine we're going to be facing some tough decisions this year on the budget, and do you have any idea on on where we're going to be coming in terms of a shortfall that we'll have to work through.
So we don't have our revenue numbers just yet. We do have plenty of cash at the state level. We have cash. It's all one-time money that was there because of money that wasn't spent this last budget cycle, and where a lot of the federal funds we were able to step in and get that done. Also, what's interesting is with all of the bad things that we've seen in the economy, there have been some areas in the economy that have been strong. We've seen a lot of sales tax collected. Example from a lot of the retail, while hotels and restaurants have been in bad shape. I mean, every time I've been by a Lowe's, there's been a line. I mean, that kind of stuff is selling strong, and people, instead of traveling, are spending their money in a lot of ways to buy goods. And so you're seeing some sales tax revenue there. But on top of just the overall budget picture, we're going to have some costs that we don't yet fully understand, or not fully understand. We don't have the numbers for them. And some of those are going to be what it's going to cost to do a lot of this remedial education for a lot of our school children. If you think about these children between kindergarten and say 6th grade, who've now been going all these months trying to learn the way we're here on this call. I mean, we're all adults on here. Imagine how distracted that we get doing doing other things, and we actually like wanted to be on this call. Well, if you're a 2nd grader and SpongeBob's on in the background, and you're there having to take class and try to do that, I mean, are you really fully absorbing everything and learning? I would submit to you that the kids learning remotely are not retaining as much information as they would in class. And I mean, anyone who's a parent here probably, if somebody disagrees, please. I haven't heard a counter opinion, but I'm sure there is one. I know my 2 sons, I would only imagine what they would be trying to learn like this. And so I am concerned really about a whole group of these kids getting behind. And so we're gonna have to figure a way to let them get caught up, to find a way so we don't just send them on to the next grade and that they're missing these core bases of knowledge that they need. So we're gonna have to deal with that. We're also gonna have to find a way to make sure that we are as this thing develops and changes, that we, in terms of the vaccine, or excuse me, the virus, that we're keeping up with the vaccine, that we're making sure the population is there. I mean, there's just so many things that we don't know what the full cost is going to be until the year develops. Everybody's kind of on pins and needles to what happens with the virus here in January, here in February, see where we are in March as we move into things. And hopefully this thing's going to be in the rearview mirror as we get into the summer months. But those are all going to be indicators as to where we go as a state. The way our budget process works, we will not be done with our budget until around May. So a lot of that actually works out well with the fact that we'll be able to adapt to the economic conditions as they are. But it's a lot of it's wait and see what exactly the revenues are and what the expenses are. So if anybody right now is trying to say that they're predicting we're going to have X amount of money, these are what the expenses are going to be, and this is what we can do, they've either got a really good crystal ball, and I'm going to ask them which stocks to buy, or they're just talking without good information.
Jay, do you have any additional questions for the speaker?
One of the things, Mr. Speaker, is that we are at the State Bar, we're trying to figure out revenue sources. And one of the things is we do have interest in wanting to do something to protect the State Bar going forward and continuing to regulate the profession, so that we do have, that bill has been out there, and I believe that we'll be either reintroducing it or trying to help get that through this year. Do you see any plans on being able to get that through?
I don't even remember which bill it is. I'm sorry, Jay.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't think it ever even made it to your side, Mr. Speaker. We had begun the process to raise the statutory cap on State Bar's annual membership fees, and so we're going to continue to try to make progress on that this session, working with both sides to see where we need to go to continue to advance that down the line.
So, well, we certainly appreciate your time. It's been very valuable, and good luck to you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thanks for joining us today.
Good to be
We
with
really
you guys.
appreciate it.
Take care.
So we do have the three things we talked about. I think, Peter, that you were talking about the judicial and prosecutorial district mismatch. We talked about that a little bit. Can you talk about the history of that and where we are right now with it?
So last session, we had a bill language that we agreed upon with AOC and asked the Senate to pass for move along, and they passed the bill that would have reverted the prosecutorial district numbers back to match the district and superior court numbers. That passed unanimously in the Senate and went to the House, and the House version of the bill did the opposite, which would be revert the move the superior and district court districts numbers to match the prosecutorial districts. We preferred the Senate version, but as we came near the end of the session, we really were just seeking a solution. And the bill went to conference committee and was gutted and used as a vessel for another agreement in conference committee. So we'll need to go back to the drawing board on this one and try to find a solution that both sides will be comfortable with. But the most important thing, I believe, is that we actually get the numbers to match at this point. The confusion that's being caused by lawyers not knowing what district they're in is frustrating for everyone. And so while a preference might be to go back to the older numbers because they're the numbers we know, having them just align and match would be better than our current situation.
Pete, I started asking if we could just get him maybe flip a coin and they go one way or the other.
What we have talked about is getting with AOC to have a concerted effort to have, on all fronts trying to get this thing passed this year. So that is one of the priorities that would be important to get done. And then the third is the dues bill that we need to get passed as quickly as we can.
Yeah, so we're going to keep trying to advance the ball down the field, talk to the people we need to talk to. The economic climate is such that it's certainly a hard sell to get a dues increase this session, but we're going to at least continue to make progress on that and inform and educate the legislators about our situation to make sure that we, like you said, Jay, that we have some flexibility in the future to make decisions as we need. We're going to be okay budget-wise this year, and so it's not the house isn't burning down. We just need to. This is something that needs to happen in the next few sessions. So we're going to keep working at it.
And that's where the contact with our legislators, whether it's a D or an R or an I, staying in contact with them and developing those relationships and being a source of information, because what's going to happen is there'll be bills introduced this session that we're going to get calls on, and that may not be the end result. So we got to stay vigilant on that regards as to, yes, it may be a bill today, but is that bill actually going to be the final product, which sometimes changes. So just stay on task with that. I believe I've skipped over the election recap. Peter, if you could address that, please.
Sure. In your materials, we try to keep a current list of lawyer legislators in North Carolina. There were a fair amount of changes this election and in the primaries. And so in the Senate now, we have 14 lawyers, 13 of them being active. Actually, this does not account for new Senator Sidney Batch, and so we would have 15 lawyers with 14 active. Representative Batch, who lost her House race, was just over the weekend appointed or selected by the party to be the replacement for Senator Sam Searcy, who resigned, and so the governor will appoint Sidney Batch to become the senator. A new Wake County senator, and she's a lawyer here in Raleigh. So that's brand new news. Also, at the end of the year, Representative Darren Jackson, who was the House Minority Leader, he resigned and was appointed as a judge on the Court of Appeals. And his replacement is not going to be a lawyer. But we do have some new lawyers, Vernetta Alston, Terry Brown, and Gray Mills in the House, and Abe Jones in the House. And we have Michael Lee, who's a senator from Wilmington, who was a senator previously, but won his seat back at this election. Senator Amy Gailey from Alamance, and Julie Mayfield from Buncombe, who are all lawyers. So it's when I started, even just 5 years ago, we didn't have this many lawyers in the legislature. So it's a good sign that we're seeing kind of a recovery. But we'll have to get to know them. And certainly with our note cards, it will be good to reach out to these new lawyer legislators and thank them for serving in the legislature while also practicing law, because we all know how difficult that might be. The other major election news is that that we're still in divided government. And so there not much major change at the legislature in terms of who's in charge and who has enough votes to override things. But I think the state has certainly sent a message about divided government. And perhaps the biggest impact that we'll see at the legislature and the judicial branch will see at the legislature is a change in leadership in the judicial branch. There will be new strategies and new communications over at the legislature with new leadership with Chief Justice Newby, and so we'll see how that affects things, and we'll be there to help everyone get everything that they could possibly get in the best way that they can get it. Jay, I think Bert had a comment.
Bert.
Hey,
Bert?
I know this is my first meeting, but I think that we need to, if this is what your priorities are, or our priorities, excuse me, and I don't want to be stepping out, stepping out of school or talking out of school, but and I'm sure Michelle and Michelle Frazier and Colin could be more specific about it. But I think one thing about the state bar is we've got to stay on message if you want to increase dues. And we've got to tell those General Assembly folks why we want to increase dues. And we have to understand the perception of that building. Every time they leave that building, they see our building. And they will tell me that our building is better than their building. And so we have got to ensure that if this is what we need, then we need good reasons why we should ask for an increase. The second thing is that we need to ensure that but is Michelle, is Danny Britt still on the JPS?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he's still a chair of Senate Judiciary.
Still a co-chair.
Yes.
I think Senator Britt would be an excellent choice to champion the judicial district and prosecutorial district mismatch. Hopefully, I would think that would be considered somewhat low-hanging fruit. But we need to find someone in the Senate and the House who will champion the increase of dues. The long session, this would be the perfect time to do it. But we need to tell them exactly what your plan is about the increase of dues. In other words, if we're going to ask for X, we're not going to increase dues by that full amount the very first time, that it would be a periodic increase over the next few years, if that indeed's the plan. But when they start that session in a couple of weeks, they're going to hit the ground running. And so I would just focus on those two issues and those two issues alone as to your initiative and your sword, while preparing Michelle and whomever to be and yourself, Peter, to be on the defense. Because I know 90% of what y'all do is somewhat defense information, but don't get sort of missed messages within the bar and get different ideas, different good idea fairies coming. And, in this instance, we probably do want to put all our eggs in one or two baskets if the increase of dues is that important. I know it's my first meeting. I know I broke that rule, but I know this is indeed important. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Bert. And Senator Britt was our, he was our champion in the Senate last year with the redistricting bill and sponsored it. And so we'll have to come back to him and say, let's see if we can't find a solution between him and the House. But he was more than willing to move it, and it got moved. But.
Before we adjourn, Michelle, do you mind have a few minutes just to talk about what your role is at the NC Bar and what you bring to the table?
Of course, I'm happy to do that. I see a lot of familiar faces here, and it's good to see everyone. I'm unfortunately not in person, but I am a contract lobbyist. I work for Nexen Pruitt Law Firm, and one of my large clients is the North Carolina Bar Association. As many of you know, I also worked at the North Carolina Bar Association for about 8 years before returning to private practice as a contract lobbyist. Someone mentioned John McMillan earlier. I had the good fortune of working with him for many years at Manning Fulton before opening a practice for Smith Moore Leatherwood and now at Nexen Pruitt. Peter, do you want me to talk just very briefly about things that are coming down the pipe from the Bar Association, or Jay? I mean, whatever you want.
I think that'd be great. A little synopsis of your agenda, maybe.
Okay. And as you know, most of the legislative items from the Bar Association are fairly technical. We will have some technical corrections to the Receivership Act, Bankruptcy Act that was passed last year. Every time you have a huge piece of legislation like this, there's always cleanup work to do. Those corrections may actually come through the General Statute Commission. That is how technical they are. From business law section, we have amendments to Chapter 55. It's a variety of things. A lot is technical, clarifying, but there will also be a provision in there that's very important to the North Carolina retail merchants and the NC Chamber, as well as other businesses across the state dealing with virtual shareholder meetings. Those were authorized during the COVID sessions last year, and they're hoping to make that a permanent option for companies as we move forward. So that is the one, and that piece may actually move separately from the other parts of the Chapter 55 bill, just because it will probably ride into a COVID bill this session as well. There are 4 proposals coming from estate planning, dealing with everything from living probate for revocable trust, to single transaction guardianships, to venue and appellate procedure for estate and trust proceedings, as well as updates to the North Carolina Uniform Powers of Appointment Act. Again, a large piece of legislation that always, when we do these things, needs some cleanup to come behind it. Family law has a fairly technical change to actually an estate planning bill last year dealing with tenancy by the entireties, and that property that is subject to litigation regarding reimbursements. And lastly, as far as the technical Bar Association agenda, we have a real property bill that is technical corrections, cleanup of making curative and technical amendments to notary acknowledgement statutes and other statutes in response to case law changes. There is one thing that I want to mention. Now, none of this, I should have said at the beginning, has been approved by the Bar Association Board of Governors yet. The board meets on Thursday and will consider all of these items, as well as an item coming out of the 56-page report that you might have received regarding racial conduct in the past in the Bar Association organization itself. The legislative component of that is that we will be pursuing a repeal of the literacy test requirement in the North Carolina Constitution. That requirement was put in the North Carolina Constitution in 1900. It was rendered completely invalid in 1965 by the Voting Rights Act, but it remains in our Constitution at this point. The House has passed a bill in 2013 and 17 unanimously to repeal it. The Senate has never taken it up, but I have spoken with Senator Berger, and he's assured me that if we get a strong enough coalition and feel like we can ensure, as much as you can ensure, passage on a ballot referendum in a year or two, the Senate should have no trouble taking that up as well. But this sort of goes outside of the normal Bar Association purview of these very technical bills that are trying to make the law work a little better for the practitioners out there. So when you hear about that, it is true. We are going down this road, and it's for a very good reason, as you've probably read in that report. But again, none of this, so at this point, all of this is pretty confidential until the Board of Governors hopefully approves these items at its meeting on Thursday.
Thank you so much, Michelle. With that, does anybody else have anything that needs to come before this committee? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. All in favor, say aye or thumbs up. We're good to go. Take care, guys and ladies.
Thanks.
Goodbye.
Thank you, everybody. Sorry, we got to hop off. Got to get to our 4 o'clock committee meeting here.